Hey, and welcome back. I just got sent these drum mics from the folks at Phenyx Pro, and this is a company I've worked with before. They reached out a couple years ago to send me one of their wireless in-ear monitor units, and it turned out to be a really good value on an awesome budget for people just getting into this sort of thing. Now, this set of drum mics comes in at under $180, so my first impression is to be a bit skeptical, because I'm a pretty firm believer that you get what you pay for, and over the last 15 or 20 years, I've invested a ton of money into microphones and spent a lot of time trying to find the right pieces to record and produce my drums. I'll be transparent and upfront that something like this probably isn't for me. Like I said, I do this for a living, and my threshold for equipment has grown to be a bit higher, but I know a lot of people who want to get into recording their drums, and maybe something like this could be a little less intimidating to get started, while still getting a set of drum mics to cover your entire set. This is the PTD-10 drum microphone system, and it includes one bass drum mic, 4 snare drum mics, but I think they mean snare or tom mics, 2 condenser mics for your overhead, and then 2 mic clips for those condensers, mic clamps for all of the snare and tom mics, and a carrying case. So let's go ahead and dig into this thing and see how everything looks before we get to playing. So right off the bat, I will say I am impressed with the case. It's nice to include it, it helps keep everything organized, and it's not some piece of junk. So first things first, we got an owner's manual. I'm sure this is more than I'm looking to get into. Goes over the polar patterns and some of the frequency responses for the different mics. All pretty straight ahead stuff. I'm not too worried about this. So I've pulled out one of each of the drum mics. So this is the snare and tom mic. Has a pretty nice build to it. It feels like full metal construction aside from some of this little angle adjustment, but still, that feels fine. Here's our bass drum mic, which is probably the same sort of thing, but just tuned to get a better frequency response in the lower end. Again, same sort of build quality. I like that it has a small form factor, because a lot of bass drum mics tend to be big and bulky, and some of them are so heavy they'll even knock over those boom stands, which are almost required for getting this in your porthole. And for the last few bits, here is one of the pencil condensers. This is a little bit bigger than other pencil condensers I own. And here's one of the clips. Looks very similar to one of the Shure mic clips. That's a very snug fit on there. Almost so snug that it would be hard to get on and off, but I'd rather have something that's going to hold a microphone strongly in place than something that's going to allow it to slip out and fall. So that should work fine. And then here is one of the clamps for clipping onto your drum rims for the snare and toms. And there's a threaded insert inside that would hold this in place. This seems great right now, but I can't really give you any sort of judgment until we hear how they sound. So I'm gonna take these over into the next room, mic up a pretty standard 5-piece drum set with 3 toms, a snare, a bass drum, and then use the 2 overhead mics. And then after that, I'm gonna swap out these mics for some of the microphones I've invested in over the years, which includes an SM57 for the snare, Sennheiser E604s for the toms, SE Electronics V-Kick on the bass drum, and Shure KSM 137s for overheads. So let's go in, get set up, and get a comparison of how these budget microphones can compare to something a little bit higher end. All right, so I just had a chance to sit down and listen and mix all of the audio I recorded. Both the Phenyx Pro mics, raw and processed, and then my higher end Pro microphones that I'm used to using on a daily basis. What I can say is that when you add the enhancements of EQ, compression, and other sorts of processing, these Phenyx Pro mics can get to like 80 to 85% of the quality as my higher end mics. And you have to factor in that what I spent to get all of those new mics would be well over $1,000. And these Phenyx Pro mics are not even 1/5 of the cost, coming in at just under $180. I will say I think the overheads sound a bit tinny, meaning they just lack some of the warmth and depth that I've come accustomed to with my nicer overhead mics. The kick mic was a bit clickier, didn't have the body and beef to it. And then the snare and tom mics were probably the closest, but still lack a little bit of that warmth and clarity that I've come accustomed to with the mics I already own. I do think that these are workable microphones, and you're not going to be recording hit records on them, but if you want to make some YouTube videos, or you're doing live sound with your band and just getting into this sort of thing, these can definitely work. Now, another thing I have to mention is that you have to factor in everything else you need to buy to make this sort of setup work. A lot of us who have a small home recording rig might only have 2 or 4 channels on our interface. You're going to need probably an 8-channel interface at least to be able to use this, because this is 7 microphones alone. Plus, if you want to be able to mic any other band members or anything else on your kit. Additionally, although you have clamps and clips for all of the mics, you need to get a small mic stand for your bass drum mic, and you need at least 1 or 2 mic stands for the overheads, so you have to factor that in. And then finally, you need cables. I'm sure most of you already have a computer or some way to record music and software that goes with that, but just another thing you need to factor in if you're getting into this from nothing. So, would I recommend these to people out there? I think if you're in this scenario where you're just getting started with recording, you have a limited budget, and you're not looking to make professional recordings yet, this is a nice stepping stone to getting into miking up an entire drum set. I'm going to include some affiliate links in the description of this video, so if you choose to buy this set of microphones, you can use that link. It helps support the channel and all the work that I put into these videos, so I would really appreciate it. Leave a comment down below letting me know what you think of these microphones, and I'll see you around again soon. Thanks.